Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Blondie's 1980 album, Autoamerican. It's alright, it's got a good diversity of sound, but there's nothing super outstanding here, unfortunately. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 10 out of 12, so actually most of them. This album is full of alright songs that all sound pretty different, but none of them sound really good. There's a lot of interesting slow songs here, but the album really lacks some of the upbeat sort of energy that would make it flow really well. Their previous album, Eat to the Beat, was really full of that sort of like energy, and it made some of the songs on that album better, even though they weren't that great. Here, the energy is missing, and as a result, the album and the songs just aren't as good. The band here has shifted from new wave rock and disco into more R&B and soulful ballads, and it works all right, but it's not outstanding. Some of their slower tracks are pretty good, but they're not really good enough, in my opinion. And while some of the tracks like T-Birds and Do the Dark attempt to speed up the tempo, it doesn't do enough to speed up the whole album. Now, Follow Me is a pretty great ending for the album, and it's one of the better slow songs here. But too much of this album is sort of in the mid-speed range, and as a result, the album really never goes. It just sort of meanders on. There was only one single released before the album, The Tide is High, but my favorite track here probably got to go with Do the Dark. It actually starts off the second half on a pretty good note, although they aren't able to carry the energy into the end of the album. The biggest track here actually was Call Me, but that isn't on the main album. It was only released as a single in 1980. And it's one of their most famous songs, and it was the only song from the band on the radio at the time. I rank this album 4th out of Blondie's 5 albums I've heard so far, so it's definitely a step back from them. It's only slightly better than their debut due to the sort of overall level of quality at this point. This seems to be more of a transition album. They get rid of the disco and pop-oriented sounds of their previous 3 albums in favor of slower, more experimental tracks. They make it work all right, but it's definitely not as good as Eat to the Beat or Parallel Lines. Plastic Letters is a little bit close, but I think I like that one more. So overall, this is sort of a step in a different direction that doesn't really work great, but it's all right overall. Now, of course, this album doesn't take my top spot from 1980. That stays with Billy Joel's Glass Houses. Definitely a much better album. It's not even really a competition for me. I like Glass Houses a lot more than this one, and I definitely think it's significantly better. Next up is Duran Duran's 1983 album, Seven and the Ragged Tiger. It's about to hit its 40th anniversary, and it's pretty good, so it's definitely a good time to review it here. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.